Afternoon. This is your lunchtime break with Marijuana Matters. We are having a conversation today about the road to equity and how it's paved with underrepresented brands. I'm so excited to be before you today. It's been a while since we've been able to have a conversation. So, again, it feels really good to have this virtual space to be in conversation about something that's so important and dear to our hearts. Again, name is Simona Wright James with Marijuana Matters. If you are not familiar with Marijuana Matters, we are a social enterprise that really prides itself on being at the hub of community, industry, and government, right? To really make sure that when it comes to social equity practices and policies, that they are in place, and most importantly, for the benefit of representing underrepresented brands. So today's conversation, it honestly will flow very nicely. One, because it is Black Business Month, right? And we have an opportunity to have this conversation with three different Black brands and businesses that, they're like family to us. We've been, throughout the years in collaboration in so many different ways. So it's really exciting to have this opportunity. Today, our moderator, Otho Smith III, with Tetragram, will be moderating the conversation. And alongside him, in terms of our speakers, we will have Lawan and also Tahir with us. When it comes to this conversation, y'all, when we're talking about the road to social equity, it's really important that I just set some groundwork, so to speak, as to how important this is. Some of you may know that earlier this year we launched the National Social Equity Certification Program, right? INSECT. Now, with INSECT, it's an opportunity for us to have representation, right, across the cannabis ecosystem. Often, when we think of social equity, we think about it in respect to different, to just operational licenses, those who are looking to have a dispensary. But what we know to be true is that across the cannabis ecosystem, there is a need, right? There are gaps when it comes to resources. There are gaps when it comes to opportunities. There are gaps when it comes to professional development. The INSECT program is there to fill those gaps, to make sure that when it comes to the underrepresented brands of those who've been most impacted by the war on drugs, they have an opportunity to be connected to more opportunities, more resources. And just the same on the flip side, when it comes to those businesses who really claim to care about, supplier diversity chain, when they claim to care about, diverse brands and DEI, all of these, terms we hear, here's an opportunity to do so in a very standardized way, right? When it comes to the INSECT program. So I wanted to make sure that you all are very much aware of that. I'll put it in the chat as well, the website where you can go to learn about the National Social Equity Certification Program. So if you are committed or concerned or care about social equity across the cannabis ecosystem, definitely we want you to tap in, because we have a lot of great things in store. And definitely when it comes to this conversation, I think it will help you to understand why it's important to really promote social equity and promote those brands who've been most impacted. First up, I want to bring in our moderator for the conversation, our brother Otha. What up, brother? Appreciate you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, Simona. It's glad to
Yes.
be here.
I feel like, again, some folks may know about your program or your company rather, but please be sure to introduce yourself and then we'll bring on the speakers.
Yeah, 100%. So again, my name is Otis Smith III. I am the CEO and founder of Tetragram. So Tetragram is a mobile app that I built really to empower us as consumers of this beautiful plant to document our experiences with it. As we know, there's tons of products out there, several ways cannabis could be consumed. So it's a daunting task for many people to figure out, which consumption method, which terpenes and cannabinoids are going to work best for them. So essentially with the app that I created, it gives people the ability to, keep track of these different products that they're consuming, how they're consuming them, and then be smarter about what cannabis products are going to work best for them. But, it's an absolute pleasure and honor to be moderating this panel today with two esteemed panelists that will share their personal perspectives on the importance of sourcing diverse and equitable cannabis brands to support an inclusive industry. you know, as you mentioned earlier, right? Like this industry really lacks proper representation of people of color. The
Mhm.
last time I checked, 2 years ago, it was like 4% representation was by minorities, and that number has dropped down to around 2.3 now. So it's really important that we have this conversation today to talk about the importance of sourcing diverse and equitable cannabis brands and really supporting them in this effort. Marijuana Matters, the brainchild of Khadijah Tribble. When she came to me with this vision of creating this certification process, I was all about it. Being someone that is a tech guy, loves to build out great technology. When it came to this initiative, it really pulled on my heartstrings because I knew through the process of building Tetragram how challenging it was. I didn't know anybody in the industry initially, so Khadijah was one of the few people that, responded very quickly when I reached out via LinkedIn. It was like, how can I help you? So, with that, it's more about just us banding together. As they say, it takes a village. So us working together, creating a program that can highlight businesses owned by minorities and women is so impactful. So let's get right into it by introducing our panelists today. These are two amazing people that are doing incredible things in the cannabis industry. Luckily for me, I had the personal relationship with both of these panelists that we're going to be talking to today, and it's been really remarkable to see them grow their businesses over the years. And they're both Maryland natives for us, so that's also cool as well because I'm here from Maryland. So, the first guest that we have is Tahir Johnson, CEO and founder of Simply Pure, a dispensary in Trenton, New Jersey. And then we also have Lawan Stribling, who is the CEO of Stribling Treats, a family owned traditional bakery that creates some really incredible infused cannabis products for us to consume. What's going on, fellas and ladies?
Yo, yo, what's going on, man? Good to see y'all both.
Indeed. Hello, hello. I'm happy to be here.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday. So, the topic of discussion for today is to really just highlight, your personal experiences, what you've gone through, the importance of this national social equity program, and therefore, I'll just jump right into it with the first question around, social equity brands and NSEC and the why. So, can each of you share the reason behind your choice to work in the cannabis industry and think of its importance for the foundation in this conversation, that the community know your personal backstories and what got you to this point today? Who wants to go first?
Ladies first.
Lawan?
Yes, excuse me. I'm sorry. We are in the middle of lunchtime right now for my daycare, so I'm having little issues with the little people right now. But so so can Taylor go first, please, so I can get
Sure
what's
thing.
going over my house situated?
Yeah, I'll be glad to.
Thank you.
Yep. So, hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tahir Johnson, founder and CEO of Simply Pure Trenton. I've been working in the cannabis industry full time now since 2019. Prior to working in cannabis, I was in finance, I was in wealth management. And as I started looking at the cannabis industry, I realized that, the lack of like business skills and lack of access to capital was one of the biggest barriers that was keeping minorities out of the industry. So I wanted to use my background in finance to try to help figure out how we could solve that problem. I grew up here in Trenton, New Jersey. I had previous cannabis charges myself. And when I was working on Wall Street, I saw where a company was going public, right? Like selling like for cannabis. And that's when I realized the real need to get involved in the industry. So I ended up working in advocacy, supporting social equity for a number of years. And like I had the opportunity to get my own dispensary, win the license back home in New Jersey. And so now, like I said, it's been really about trying to help others get into the industry from the very beginning for me. But then also from the medical cannabis side, my dad had fibromyalgia and he was like getting all different types of medications. And that was really one of the first things that opened me up to like the medical cannabis industry and like the legal cannabis industry in the first place to even start exploring it like this. So I'm now thankful to have the opportunity to be opening my business and hopefully show an example of, what we can actually achieve in the industry. So like I said, I've been knowing both of y'all since day one. Like I said, it's dope to be here together. Like I said, this journey from like 2018, 2019 to now and everything I've learned. So I'm always glad and love to share with the community.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I so appreciate your drive and motivation. Just watching you grow has been a wonderful thing to see. For me, I came back into the industry because I really thought I was able to apply to be a processor when licenses opened up in 2019. And when I came back into cannabis and realizing the medicinal benefits of cannabis and not just using it as a crutch as I was in the past, I felt like I had so much information to share to our community so that they could actually bring healing to the community versus using it as something to be intoxicated with. So I started a brand, which is Triple District LLC. And I really was described to apply to be a processor at that time. But, excuse a process at a time. But when I realized that I couldn't afford step one, I was like, well, how do I get into this business still and get my name known and out there? So it just was like bootstrapping from that point on. I already had a bakery established, well, growing at that point. And so I figured out how to do a cottage industry business. So I didn't really have to have a license to afford for commercial licensing. I could just start as a bakery and do the farmers markets and public events and vending stuff like that. Um, so from there, I just became an advocate, like just being seen in social settings to help end the stigma on cannabis. I use Stribble District to highlight the beauty in cannabis. I say it's melting your mouth, it melts in your mouth treats and melts away your pains too, because I feel like it is medicine. It's an herb. I use it like an herb, and I don't want to use it as something to be intoxicated with. So with this information, I feel like I'm here to share this with our community because we need true healing here in our community. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely, and both of you guys touched on something very important, which with two things really. One was, Tahir talked about transferable skills. Lawan, you pretty much talked about how you were utilizing your craft in the kitchen and now bringing that to cannabis. And me being a person who worked in the tech industry and now bringing that to the cannabis industry. It's like that's one of the things that I always share with people. It's like when they want to get into the industry, you can use your existing skill set and find your way in this industry. So that's really great to see. And then the other thing too that you guys touched on is just the healing aspect, right? Like, when I first got into cannabis, I just used it as something recreational to enjoy my time. But through the discovery of being in this industry, to hear using it to see how his father's improved with his health benefits, and you seeing the healing aspects as well, Lawan, has really shown that this industry and this plant is just truly magical. So very cool, very cool. And again, flowers to both of you for everything that you're doing. Could both of you please shed some light on your unique challenges and struggles as being a black entrepreneur in the space? As I mentioned earlier, there's such a few amount of us in here. It's very challenging. So your perspective is crucial in understanding the barriers that exist and how we can navigate around them. So what have been some of the barriers and struggles that both of you experienced as you've been growing your companies?
Well, it's been a barrier every step of the way. For one, I had to separate my brand because I was just supposed to be Stribble District LLC. But because I came in as a cottage food business, the health department in Maryland said I can't use bakery items with infusions or herbal infusions. So that's how Stribble Treats became born. But then with that, now I have to pay for licensing and the fees for two businesses now versus just the one. So that's another barrier when you don't have just, the steady income coming in or access to capital, which is huge for our community. We don't have the access to capital, right? So that in itself has been a never ending pivot. I mean, they look at my website, they look at my Instagram page, tell me what I need to take off there because I'm trying to apply for retail licensing just for the bakery goods. And it's just a lot. It's just a lot to deal with. And that's just on that end. That's not even talking about being able to like get into the infusion part for the business in the cannabis business. And it's so funny because I have a farmer's market stand. And everyone thinks that because July when we went rep, that people can come to my market stand and buy edibles from me. I'm like, you can. Like, I wish. Trust me. I wish it was that simple because I'll be like, hey, let's bring it. Can you still you're
Exactly.
looking like, what do you mean I can't? But we were legal. I'm like, you still have to go to the dispensary and you won't find this at the dispensary. So, I don't know what to tell you. But I mean, it's just never ending barriers. And I'm hopeful that programs like Insect will help with me in that, because I don't have the the relationships that most people have when they go to college, and just those things I just don't have right now. So I'm really, really looking forward to what Inset can provide.
Yeah, no doubt. Capital is always the biggest hurdle. I mean, I've experienced that myself. What about you, Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same here. Probably the largest one, but I think starting from the beginning, when you look at everything that it goes to, like apply for a dispensary, all the different types of professional expertise that you need, from attorneys to accountants to actual cannabis experts, right? All of those cost money. Real estate, getting local approval. And again, all of those things cost money as well. So on one side, having to navigate and build the local relationships as well as raising capital. Thankfully, in my case, I was able to find investors that supported and believed in my project. But I know for me, right, I think about, like, for me, it's really been a 5-year process, because I've been out probably front and center, probably one of the most visible people in the industry, and had a background in finance. So, being able to build this, took quite a, took a lot of time, it took a lot of work. But I think one of the biggest things that I found is that, in addition to like just getting the cannabis licensing, as hard as that was, man, there's so many other little steps that you have to go through, from like getting a site plan approval to getting permits here in New Jersey. Had to get approval from all different types of outside agencies. And all those things is, I mean, really time and money. Those are the biggest things that you have to make it in this industry. They're also the biggest things that a lot of our people don't have, right? Because if you look at it, like, if you're working a regular day-to-day job, which you probably have to do because you got to sustain this, how much time do you have to commit to the business? And again, capital, right? So thankfully, like I said, for me, I was blessed to have had a full-time career in the industry for the past 5 years as like a leader in the industry. And that helped me to be building and working on this the entire time. But man, I know even for me, it was like the hardest thing that I've ever done, like damn near impossible. So I know how hard it is for everybody else. So yeah, man, time and money are the big, or lack thereof, are the biggest resources that I think that it takes to make it in this.
Yeah, and I agree there too. Like, I think we're all in the same boat with that. Like, raising capital is extremely hard. I mean, it was one of the things that I completely underestimated. Just given that we had such great traction with our app in the market when it launched, but it's a challenging task for all of us, because I'm sure all of us have been in those rooms with investors, and unfortunately, a majority of the people sitting across the desk from us don't look like us. So it makes it very challenging for them to kind of see where we are and be in our shoes, because they don't live that life, right? So it's a completely
Yeah.
different, it's an uphill battle. And then when it comes to licensing and zoning, when you are opening up, a brick and mortar spot, to here's point, there's so many other people who play an intricate role in making that dream or that vision come to light, and it gets very costly. So, I always tell people that, the best thing that you could do is really expand your network as much as possible with people who believe in you, have the same mindset as you, because, again, it takes a village, and we all need to get there together, and we could complement each other in several ways. Were you going to say something, Lawan?
Well, I was just in agreement with you. It's so true. It,
Yeah,
it,
it's
I'm just like, whew, y'all, the pivot. You just understand that daily pivot that I have to take. Um, Being an entrepreneur, because I don't have, let's say, 9 to 5 to support my income. I'm an entrepreneur by trade for 15 years as a daycare provider, but I'm trying to phase that out and move forward with this. And it's difficult. It's very scary because I don't have that steady income to come in now to support me. So I have to make sure I'm out every day busting my tail to make sure I make my quota.
Yeah, it just takes so much more than this capital. Networks, just meeting the right folks. It takes a lot. In terms of the next question, so, why is achieving equity often considered elusive and challenging for us in the society? And what makes it valuable in leveraging the playing field for everyone? Any thoughts there?
Mhm. Yeah, I think when we look at cannabis specifically, I think when it first started out, people were kind of just talking about free the plant, right? Like legalize it, let's get it legalized. But then I mean, not over time, it actually happened real fast. Like we ended up getting this industry and this system of laws and regulations that make it super like difficult, right? Like mission impossible to be able to apply for these licenses. Like Lawan's talking about, like in Maryland, I know we like applying for those licenses. There were 4 cultivation licenses and 10 processing licenses, right? Available for all the people that want to do it. So imagine how many people you have applying for like the same number of limited opportunities, right? And it's typically been like that in every every single state. So where you kind of have it takes a lot. And I think, like she was saying, it's not just there's so many different areas of expertise, like actually building a team of people to be ready to do it. Because like I said, it just takes so I mean, so many different parts to move the business, and business partners and vendors, and like so many different things you have to do to meet the regulations. So it's a lot to go into it, and it's super competitive. Now, social equity, I think part of the reason it's important is, I mean, when you look at legalization now, I think they figured out that when you look at these laws, like first of all, cannabis was around in every community before legalization, right? So we have to start there. That there's already been this whole economy of cannabis. People have been feeding their families with cannabis. People have been doing all of this, and now, like, you got people who have been locked up for it, got charges, and had their lives also ruined before it. And now we got a business that's making multi-millions of dollars. So it only makes sense that those same people who've been impacted, and also those same people who build livelihoods on cannabis, should have an opportunity to be integrated in the market. Because it's like, if, like they said statistically, right, like African Americans are 4 times more likely to be arrested for cannabis if you look at that average across the country. Well, now we have a business that made, like, let's say 30 million, whatever, 30, is it billion? I'm sorry, last year. And we own 2% of it, right? So that doesn't, the math right there ain't math. And so it's like, you got to do something about it, right?
It's so difficult because, I mean, well, for one, from my standpoint, when I'm talking about, well, let's talk about healing from the plant and not using it as something to be intoxicated on. Well, most people don't want to have that conversation with me. Like, they're not here yet. They're like, well, what are you talking about? So for me, it's been hard just to get people to understand the vision in that, like, and to help me grow with that, right? I mean, we're here now, but remember, I started this in 2019. So now people are more talking about the healing effects of cannabis versus just being, high all the time. I've been trying to get partners and stuff. I've had some partnerships that didn't go well. People are taking my vision and creating their own brands. It's just a challenge. And this is from people from our own community. So I didn't expect that to happen. I think culturally, we have a trust problem, and we don't want to support each other, like, to grow. It's like, out for myself, but I don't have that. I think that we should all grow together and support each other, come up, because if you look around, that's what other cultures are doing, and they're doing well in that aspect. And I feel like we can do it too, but we have to have that vision. But that, again, that starts with healing you in the community. So
No, yeah, exactly right. I mean, that's one of the things I touch on all the time is, the society, the U.S. society has done a great job of creating a crab in the barrel mentality among the Black culture, where we don't necessarily support each other. We see someone who's gotten to an area or position in life, and we're like, instead of going up to them, asking them how they got there and looking for their guidance, we're just hating on them and be like, we don't want them there. We need to replace them. So, it is crucial that as you start to expand your network, you find people who, are of the mindset, like I mentioned earlier, because there are, like, to your point, Lawan, there have been people who, look like me, and I thought, we were going to do some great things together, but it just didn't work out. But, that's where you got to continue to just push forward, because, over time you will meet those right people. And to your point, to here, I mean, that's spot on. Like, when it comes to policy, like, every state has tried to include diversity and inclusion, but none of it's really been successful. And, you spending time at the Marijuana Policy Project really sheds light on that, right? Where, I always tell people we need to get more involved on the political scene and actually speak to the lawmakers and so forth, and be more active there than just working with the state regulators, because they're just doing whatever these politicians are passing and making law.
It's
So I
true.
think that was a great point to just really harp on the fact that we really need to be more active in our political system. And so we'll be right at the root of the issue so that we can hopefully inflict the right change moving forward.
Amen to that, man. And I think that's something that a lot of our people in our community have to learn. Me getting into like cannabis and becoming a lobbyist, it was totally by mistake. Like I had no idea what any of that was, right? Like I attended my first lobby day with MCBA back in 2019. And we were supposed to go talk to the members of Congress office about cannabis. And I'm just looking at the paper and I'm like, yo, if one of my boys is chief of staff or one of these congressmen, should I hit him up? And from there, I learned that it's all about relationships. It's all about understanding the issues. It's all about knowing, like everybody else, like what is our agenda of our constituency as a people? Like, what do we need? What are we trying to accomplish? And then having the opportunity to speak on that agenda and represent the people, right? Like that's how we got to move stuff forward. We got to learn and know the issues and represent ourselves and move stuff forward. And so I was thankful to always have that opportunity over the past couple years. And I think for me, I think like I said, we also need to see real life examples of this success. Like what can we do it so to not preach? Like I was like, I'm gonna try it myself, and hopefully so far it's working out, right? Like I think it's been a long journey, but a lot of failures. But I think it's also that perseverance, right? Like it's not going to be easy. Like anything else, when you get back, you got to dust yourself off, keep planning, and go for it again, right? Like you know what I mean? Like it's been for me personally, it's been like 5 years in the making to get here. So I think that's something, and collaboration and every person you meet, you learn a little bit from, right? So there's always opportunities to teach and learn and and I think be lifting as we climb, because like to your point, like when we get to like I guess whatever, right? Like the goal is for me, like I don't be getting my dispensary is not supposed to stop there. Like how can I help other people get theirs? Because when there's more of us, again, more of us at the table, right? That's how we have more influence and we're able to, make a difference. So
Yeah.
I love getting to collaborate and share information and learn together with y'all and people like us that are committed to it.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
that's
that's the other thing too. It just takes time, right? Like you've been at it for 5 plus years. Lawan, you've been at it for 5 plus years as well. I mean, I remember sometimes I look back at my articles or incorporation documents. I'm like, man, 2014 is when I incorporated Touchagram. A lot of people don't realize, man, this is a journey to get
a
to this point.
journey.
And it's not
Yeah.
something where you get in because you think you're going to make money quick and get rich and exit out. Like you really got to have that passion and fortitude to say, I'm doing this because not only is it going to create generational wealth, but we're helping other people in our communities understand that this is possible. So, I love
Definitely.
that. Love it.
I just want to piggyback on what Tahir said, that that really helped me in my advocacy space, because long ago I knew that I wanted to lobby and advocate for weed. I just didn't know how, right? So when I became an adult and I was able to have this access, and I came up with, getting in contact with Locy and Luke from Maryland Normal, and it just helped push my advocacy efforts to understanding that, hey, y'all, we need to really look at what's going on in policy in our local government. So that's when I really got active in my community to help like people understand the importance of voting locally. And I've held some voter registration events. And you learn that like the different municipalities have different laws. So some 16 and 17-year-olds can actually vote for local areas depending on where you live. So just to have this information and teach the community, I feel is so important. And that too will help us in the long run, because then we'll have people in our spaces like Martin Mitchell who have a voice for us.
Exactly. And, as we talk about the National Social Equity Certification Program and how, that program was built to help people like us have visibility in the industry by, creating a seal that says, all right, I can apply this seal to Tahir can apply that seal to his dispensary door so that as people walk in, consumers, investors, whoever it may be, they know that this company is owned by a person of color. And the same with you, Lawan, like that seal can be utilized in order to put on your branding because, I mean, when we walk into a dispensary, we have no idea where our money is going when we're making that purchase of the product. So, that's just one insight that I see from the benefit of the National Social Equity Program. But I'm really curious to see what other benefits and how important it is for you guys in becoming certified through the program as well.
Well, for me, it's access for sure. An introvert. Cannabis helps me talk to people, but it's hard. It was difficult at the beginning to just come up and talk to people openly. But I feel like this access and just that network of people that they have in their network will help me be more visible. Because again, it's just me doing this on my own. I don't have a team yet, and we're just still at the growth stages to get more known and visible, and also like the support as far as knowing that my brand is official. Like I went through the trademarking and stuff by myself. I did reach out for help, but I didn't get the feedback from that assistance from another program that I had signed up to pay for. And I just want it to be a program that people know what they're doing, right? And they have the information to understand that this is what is going to happen and this is how we're going to help you, versus just I feel like I'm wasting my money, putting money here and there, but I'm not really getting results.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there have been so many times when, there's a lot of different organizations out there and it's like, all right, they're asking for money, but like, what are you really getting in return, right? It's kind of like a question mark sometimes. You have to spend a couple dollars for a couple months and then hopefully you're starting to see ROI. But, I totally get your point with NSEC. It's like, no, we're telling you up front what the benefits are, what you can expect to get out of it. What about you, Tahir?
Yep. Well, one of the benefits that I saw in it, and I signed up for it immediately as soon as I saw it, is one of the things that I recognized from my previous work is that it's often difficult to identify like who social equity people are, right? Like some states don't have social equity programs at all. And since cannabis is federally illegal, there's not any type of program to identify and certify what those businesses look like. And so I'm a believer of that as cannabis becomes legal and mainstream, if programs want to provide like services specifically for social equity companies in the way, like, for example, the SBA provides services to a business if you're a certified Black owned business, right? If we can identify who these social equity businesses are, then that actually will help us to be able to provide resources specifically for that group of people. So I think having a program that can identify like what that looks like on a state and federal level and provide some consistency, because again, some people have it, some people don't. Like, you know what I mean? I think that helps us to be able to target our resources and our energy towards solving the problem. So I think that, and I think one of the other things is that as we look at it, that can include both plant touching and ancillary businesses, because one of the other things that's important is supplier diversity. So as we can identify like businesses that are true social equity businesses, then we can also use that to identify both plant touching businesses and ancillary businesses that are, true social equity businesses that we can support. Also, I know that a lot of companies, even when you look at the larger companies, right, they have initiatives and programs where they want to support social equity businesses. So this, I think, helps to establish a framework so that they can say, hey, I'm supporting some states, for example, have to give back a certain amount to social equity so it's like given a real framework to be able to facilitate that. I think that's probably some of the biggest value of it, to be able to have that consistency all across the board.
Yeah, 100%. And you bring up a really great point too, because that's something I shared my vision for when Khadijah came to me initially with the program is, getting the state regulators on board with this, right? Like, the state regulators hold all the power in these various markets throughout the country. So let's put the state regulators' feet to the fire too, and be like, here's a certification program. Here are X amount of companies that have gone through this program, submitted their information to show that they're valid. And now we need the state to take that information and push back on the industry and say, a certain percentage, I don't know what that percentage is, 10%, 20% of every dispensary has to carry products or utilize ancillary services that, contain this seal. I think that's a great way that we can help move it forward. And then it also circles back to what we were talking about, which is, being more involved in the political scene, right? Because, our voices need to be heard when we're down at City Hall and, when we're talking to these state regulators at these town hall meetings that they're having. So all
Right.
great points for sure.
Yeah, man. And like I said, I think for me, it's really about this standardization, right? Because if I ask you what does social equity mean, you might get a bunch of different answers, right? Like, so even for example, like you said, from a legislative or regulator standpoint, like the way that like I think of the two states where I've been at in the business the most or tried, the Maryland's definition of in New Jersey's definition of social equity are going to be completely different, right? And
Yep.
so are the like what the benefits or resources that they provide to both of those. So it's like, how do we standardize that, across the board, right? And I think that this will be helpful with that.
Yeah, standardization is a big word in this industry, as we all know. Not only when it comes to social
Hey, you
equity,
know
we're talking about
it.
product labels. I mean, testing. That's a word that holds a lot of weight in this industry for sure.
Mhm.
It's also important to talk about, the positive impacts of supplier diversity on consumers. When consumers can patronize products that are owned and produced by minorities, what's the impact for the small business? Like, you think about that in any context. Like, LaWanda,
Well,
you're
I need
manufacturing
all that
product.
supply diversity right there. It's great at the market because I do get support at the market. I just, need the access to be more visible. And I really feel like that's what's holding me up in growth, just the visibility of it all, and also the certification process. I would love to be registered as a small business, and a woman-owned business. So I just need help along the way. So I'm hoping that this certification will assist me in that process. I know it's a lot of reading and takes time, but it's important. I think I'm a consumer who supports people who look like me. So I feel like there's other people who feel that way too. And it's good to know that when it's truly supporting a person who looks like us versus just, a face of the company.
Yeah, it's kind of like that shop local, eat local, shop black, spend black dollars kind of deal, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Any
Amen to
talk?
that, man. A dollar that's spent in, spent in the community, stays. I think it's trying to make sure that the dollar can circulate through, again, whether it be plant touching businesses or ancillary businesses, and being able to identify who those are, is certainly, certainly goes a long way. You don't. A company may marketing or whatever may identify and make you think it's a certain way, but it might not be actually what it is. So having a certification to really identify what's what and who's who, is, again, from a standpoint of consumers that definitely want to support, right? Like, I think there's a big movement of consumers that want to even support social equity, right, or responsible businesses. So that allows us to educate them, and know what it is. So I think there's a lot of even benefits like that, that can come from it.
Yeah, and me being someone who is on the ancillary side in technology, like, being able to utilize that seal, show that I'm certified through the INSEC. Again, this helps our visibility as well for companies that are looking to source, ancillary businesses that are minority owned. So, one of the things that we're definitely going to be doing, because we're in the process of launching Tetragram 2.0, much might I add. And we're going to do that in September. But as we revise our website, like, I'm definitely going to have that that seal front and center, so that people know, oh, this has been certified through INSEC. This is a minority-owned company. Because, to your point, to hear, and yours as well, Lawan, a lot of people are searching for products and brands, and services that are owned by people who look like us, which is, refreshing. We just need to amplify it a lot more, for sure.
Totally. I get a lot of support at the farmers market from people who look like me and don't look like me, and I appreciate that. So, and just in my own community alone, I see the change because, just going from an environment where this community was only once catered to people who were of European descent, and just seeing the growth from there, I've seen change, and people are definitely willing and open to support other races.
I can only imagine. I can't wait. I got to make it down to one of these farmer market events to see you in action doing your thing.
Yes, you have to come. I sold some magazines too this week.
Nice, nice.
Yes, because I will say the non-infused goodies are just as good as the real ones. So I'm sure them things probably do good.
It's a passion for me though, and I feel like, especially as being a mom, that's how I take my medicine. When I don't, you don't want to smoke per se around your children all the time, but and it helps me just to be normal and sane. And that was my introduction back in it, because when you go to the like back in the day, there was still just like doing cereal bars in 2019, and I'm like, come on, y'all, I don't even eat that stuff. So we have to
Yeah,
do better for a
yeah.
health standpoint. Like even in dispensaries, we have to do better with what we're giving people to eat and ingest, because all things are not good for you.
Yeah, 100%, especially in our community. Like, another reason why I was so motivated to create Tetragram is because, in our community, especially, like, we're always chasing high THC numbers, right? And we just need to know more, that there's more to this beautiful plant, the cannabinoids, the additional terpenes that,
Yes,
give you
all the wonderful
that sweet
things.
flavor and that body high or that mind high. We were just talking earlier before we got on how I'm still searching for that right strain or that right product that that's smokable, that I can work throughout the day. So it's a process of getting there.
Yes.
Soon I'll get to Tahir's level pretty soon, but
Indeed, indeed, for us all, y'all.
but
This is just a blessing for real.
yeah. But before we open it up to questions, anything new? What's exciting in both of your worlds in these next couple months before because we're almost. Man, it's hard to believe Christmas will be here before you know it. So, what's
Yeah.
up with you to here? What's the opening day, my man?
Oh man, so biggest, most exciting thing for me, I got an email from my architect today that my plans are ready to resubmit. So I'm gonna pick those up and resubmit those to the town today. Hopefully my permits will be approved finally, and I can finish my construction. But I only got about like 2 weeks of construction left here. Like I said, we've already started. So hopefully we can have the construction done by the end of August, early September. From there, the CRCs told me I need about 30 days to plan for opening after they've done their final walkthrough. So I'm hoping to open sometime in October. I don't have the exact date yet, but everything is moving along as it should. So I hopefully, I can't wait to send out a grand opening date to everybody in our community, because as much as I can have everybody support, I know there's so many people that have like, man, been that I've been they've been rocking with me for a long time, man. So I'm just excited to get to share this with everybody. So just stay tuned, y'all. I know we've been saying this coming from last year, but I swear, I was like, I got the, I just thought, I was like, oh yeah, I got the license. They're gonna let me build it. We're gonna do it, but Lord knows that there's a couple more steps that we need to go through. But I finally did them all now, right? Like I think of it, it's like the Avengers, man. I had to collect all of them Infinity Stones. You got to do the whole thing. So I said, finally there, man. But October should be when we're shooting the open finally.
Yeah, congrats, brother. Like I said, it's
Yes.
been a pleasure to watch your journey, man. Super happy, super proud of you. So can't wait for that opening day. Just let me know so I can be there in
You
full
already
effect.
know, man. We got to launch the Tetragram 2.0 here, man. So
Oh,
you
you know
know.
that.
Yes, we
That's
do.
what I'm saying.
That's
What about
so
you,
amazing.
Juan?
I'm so happy for it to hear. Just from 2019, when I first met you at that College Park meeting that we had for cannabis entrepreneurs, I'm just so amazed and proud of everything you've done. I'm so thankful for Wanda James too, because she's
Yeah.
amazing as well.
No, like I said, she's a blessing, and even that, right? For me, that's what it's all about. Us as Black folks coming together, cooperative economics. Like, why try to start my own when I'm blessed to have people like that in my network, right? This amazing, like Simply Pure, what it stood for our community. So I'm blessed to be able to have her trust to grow that. And like you said, from 2019 there at College Park to even like Marijuana Matters, like when I was still working in finance before I ever worked in cannabis, I hit Khadijah up and asked her to be her intern at Marijuana Matters. And that was before it was this whole organization that did what it was. And she's like, brother, I'm not quite ready for it. You don't quit your, she's like, don't quit your job, because it's like hard to do it in this issue, but I ain't listened to her and quit anyway. I'm just thankful that we've still even had the opportunity to continue that relationship and see all the great things this organization has been doing to help advance. And like you said, now with this certification and all the work that so many people have been doing, it's a blessing that we could all be here, man. And like I said, the way we're all growing and continuing to share together. So like I said, I know there's folks out there that are probably listening, hoping to learn. So any way I could ever be helpful, let me know. Each one teach one. That's how we all got here.
Indeed. Okay, for me, I am taking a huge step, y'all, and I'm closing my daycare after 15 years. So August 28th will be the last day I'll be doing daycare, and I'm pursuing Stribble District LLC full time.
That's dope. The big leap. We
It
here.
is a big leap. I jumped into my fears before, and it's been rewarding. So I'm just gonna keep jumping.
Mm.
Right. Good
Wishing you
stuff.
blessings in that.
Hey,
Thank you.
That's a beautiful thing. And not to cut you off, Otha, if you were going to share, I came back in because I'm like, okay, we're 15 minutes before, and the
Oh
exchange
wow.
has been so great. It's beautiful, really, to have this type of exchange because it's so needed, right? And, no matter where we are in our day to day, in our businesses, as all of you being small business owners, your day is super busy and I know super hectic. And one word, Lamont, that you shared a bit ago, and throughout all of our preparation to be here is the word pivot, right? Having to do so many pivots in your business, right? It takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you. It really does. So I really hope that through this exchange that we've had today, folks have a better understanding, again, of the importance of social equity, what it means to some degree about standardizing social equity. Because when we really think about it, one of the things that, and I think, although you said it a bit ago too, when we think about like the Target brand and the concept of social equity isn't like a new one to cannabis, right? It really is happening in industries across board, right? And when we think about, elevating equity when it comes to in the various supply chains, it really elevates our communities, right? It elevates our way to show up in our families. It will elevate our way to push forward communities that are healthier, that are healing, right? Because we know a lot of it is happening through cannabis, whether it is directly because you are a consumer or whether it's because you believe in the power of cannabis in terms of it being a substantial and a professional and legitimate industry market that we can all grow from and build from, and hopefully build some generational wealth so that when it comes to our kids and their kids, we're able to again have more productive and a higher quality of life, despite all the negative consequences that have come with the plant, have come with being pioneers in the cannabis industry. So I feel definitely humbled and honestly privileged that y'all feel comfortable to share your time like this, because again, I know the work is plentiful, I'm sure, and you taking out the time of your day to have this conversation is super appreciated. Because again, this is not just happening in cannabis; it's happening all across board in terms of us really as a people and as a community. Just and you spoke on it a bit ago, Suleiman, that trust factor and really wanting. To reach higher, heights, and a lot of that has to deal with the our trust and believing in ourselves, believing in each other. And like you shared here, just like coming together and sharing knowledge and always being there for each other. It's really dope. Can't say that again. And I didn't mean to be as long-winded because this is the Q&A. And please feel free to drop your questions. I saw a question from, I believe, in the chat from Madam, and I definitely want to elevate that at this time and just make sure folks know that, if you have questions for these dope, dynamic people, feel free to share them at this time. But this question comes from Madam. How about addressing the pushback in the cannabis community when it comes to social equity? They act like it's a barrier. Um, any immediate thoughts from either three of you when it comes to that?
Yeah, I can speak on that. So first, I'll say, Lena, what's up? It's been a minute. I haven't seen you in a while, but I know who that is. Uh, but yeah, I think New York is a big example of that, right? Like we just saw an injunction this week against like the card program because people are like saying it's a barrier to other people getting in. I think what, again, at least in my opinion, as we look at cannabis specifically, and we look at cannabis specifically here in the United States, like there's actual factual statistic data about the impact that cannabis prohibition has had on specific communities over, and it's like over the past, what, let's say 50 years, but even if you don't look back that far, right, you can see the arrest rates, you can see who's locked up for it, and you can see who that is and overwhelmingly who it is. So when I look at social equity programs, I know there's a lot of conversations going on around affirmative action, all different types of stuff. It's not the same because it's not just saying, oh, we're giving it to like black people, or them, even black or Latino, or they're not saying that automatically, right? So if we're saying we're giving this, as we're getting this legalized to the people who have been impacted by the war on drugs, just break down to the statistics, like why should those people not have why should it be a multi-million-dollar business that's being made and somebody else be allowed to come in and do it, and all the same people that have been had received all of this not have a part to be a part of it. I think it's just that simple, and I think everybody can win together. I think when we do what's good for the community, I think that we, that we all, I mean, that we all win, right? So again, I don't think that it should be an opposition. I think we're all on the same side, and I think also it shouldn't be seen as opposition, because I think as we look at cannabis legalization, trying to legalize the plant, social equity is probably one of the best arguments that we also have, right? Because now we're saying that we're applying this restorative justice. So I think that we should consider us to all be on the same page, working together rather than being opposition, like I said, as we have it in some places. And I know at the end of the day, it all come in some cases it comes down to money, right? Like, as people are like, oh, why should they get to go first? But again, it's not because it's like an affirmative action thing. It's, again, if we're going to legalize something and all of these people have experienced this, why do they not deserve it? So that's
Right.
my argument for it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I just like to just go back to the foundations of prohibition, the real reasons to why cannabis was prohibited in the first place and who has all been affected. So I literally took the time and wrote articles about it. So you can read my articles on my blog to understand and why I fight for what I fight for. I know how healing this planet is. I know how our planet, community, everyone has been harmed from prohibition. So I just keep going by what nature does and moving through nature, because it's a plant, it's nature, and we all have to have this healing. And it begins with the communities who have been hurt the most. And my family is still being hurt by this prohibition to this day. So it's for that.
Yeah, I mean, I echo all those sentiments. You still look at it today, and the majority of people who are still getting locked up are still people who look like us, right? So that's just a problem. And the only way to really address that is to band together, have some type of standardization when it comes to what social equity, like to hear pointed out early, in every state, so that we look at it the same way, we address the problem in the same way, so that we can have the most momentum to make a appropriate change. But to your point, Lawan, like, even someone, I've been using cannabis since I was 15, and I just turned 42 on the 9th of this month. And prior to jumping into cannabis, I had no idea that cannabis was made illegal due to a racist motive. So that's what really spearheaded me to say, I got to get in this, and we got to make some change.
Definitely. Definitely. And this is about leveling the field, right? Leveling the playing field. So it has to be. We it's past time for us to correct the wrongs. And you can look in our laws and see where it's wrong. And that's why it's important to be involved politically. I don't know if y'all can see my shirt, but be involved politically. Okay. It's
I love
important.
it.
That
It's very important. It's important for your families. It's important for your children and their children, because again, history will show you what's happened with the laws and how it's harmed certain groups and how it hasn't. So
yeah. And I mean, honestly, everything in life is political to some degree, right? We just may not realize the power dynamics at play when they're right in front of us, right?
mhm.
And again, this is no endorsement to Target. Just thinking about their situation again, when we think, because seriously, like, there's so many brands that over the last few years, especially as a woman, a Black woman, like, I've been so proud about, like Honey Pot and Tabitha Brown. Like, these are these were once, and still to some degree, like, these are local brands, right? They're working hard to get their name out there, and a good reason as to why they've been able to is because Target has took some, and I'll say some, right, responsibility to realize, okay, they need to diversify, the brands that they have on their shelves, so that way, when it comes to entering local markets, and when it comes to getting into the hearts and minds of people who want to shop Black, or who want to shop Black, or who want to shop from underrepresented brands, they have an opportunity to do that. But the same is not necessarily true when it comes to cannabis, right? Especially if we're talking about more than just the plant, right? Because we know there are a slew of ancillary businesses, right, that work in support and in conjunction with cannabis. Be it if you're a rolling papers brand, be it if you're a glass maker, whatever the case may be. Um, all of those cannabis brands and businesses need an opportunity, to be more visible. And visibility often costs money, and it
Mhm.
means that you have an immense network, right? It's not easy to get on the shelves. It's not easy to start your own dispensary. It's not easy to have faith enough. You think you said August 28th. So you gonna always look, that takes strength, and that takes a lot of resourcing, and just really making sure that folks know that you exist, making sure that know that you're on the ground doing the work. So it really is important for these exchanges. I really appreciate, again, all of you for being here. We are 2 minutes to close. We want to make sure this lunchtime break dialogue was, short and sweet, an hour of your time, and thinking that, in a lot of, work situations, hopefully we're taking an hour. We may not always have the ability to take an hour for lunch, but that hopefully we are, to some degree, having moments to ourselves where we can build and nourish ourselves. In this conversation, to some degree, I hope was nourishing to you. If you are watching this in real time or replay, please be sure to drop in the chat just one word, impressions, thoughts, about this conversation, so we can again get some real data back in terms of like just the impact of these conversations. We know they're important. We know the possibility of, education that happens in these moments, the possibility of community building that happens in these moments, but we would love to hear from you. So definitely in the chat, drop one word, thoughts, sentiments from this virtual chat. There's also in the chat, and I'll drop it again, a survey link. If you are watching this again, real time or replay today, we will do a giveaway for Marijuana Matters, because if you believe that marijuana matters, we want you to say it with your chest. So we'll send you a shirt that reflects just that. So when you're in your community, you can rep it. You can be a conversation piece. You can, be a walking billboard, so to speak. So definitely fill out that survey. And to our beautiful moderator, I want to make sure too that if there's anything going on in your world, please let folks know what that might look like and how they can stay connected with each of you. I don't think you shared your socials, but please be sure to do that at this time.
Yeah, thanks again for the time, Simona. It was a pleasure talking to two good friends of mine and seeing their growth,
Yes.
sharing their perspectives. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is that we're dropping Tetragram 2.0, something I've been working on for the last year and a half. I've been radio silent for about 8 months, so it's been nice to just have my head down. But that's coming out. It'll be available on Apple and Apple and Google Play September 1st. So please follow us on Instagram at the Tetragram app. You got to spell it all the way out because, we've been shadow banned. You know how this industry works. So again, the Tetragram app, and then you can always locate me if you want to have more of a direct conversation on LinkedIn, and just first name Othus Smith III.
Thank you, brother.
I am so appreciative to Othus Smith and Tetragram, because I was like, I wish I had Tetragram around when I knew about it in 2019. But this is what Can Woman Heal is about, like understanding how you can use the medicine for your ailments. And Tetragram does that. Like you can journal right there on the app, all what you need to know, so you can find the strands that work for you, the cultivars that work for you. All right. It's so important because that's how I tell people I cannabis different. And it's because I know the ones that work for me. So I just focus on those when I need to have some medicine. And I think it's very, very important for your wellness journey. But to add for me, you
Appreciate
can find me you can find me on lin.bio/dribbles. Those are all my links. I'm on we'resurviving.com and shribbletreats.com directly is my email. Oh, actually, I'm on LinkedIn as well as Launch Dribbling, but you can email me at stribbletreats@gmail.com.
Hey, appreciate you. And brother Tahir, where can people find you?
Of course. So you can find me online. Let's see, Instagram and Twitter is Ty Diddy. LinkedIn, Facebook, my government name, Tahir Johnson. And you can find Simply Pure Trenton on every platform. Please feel free to reach out and connect any way you like.
Hey, thank y'all so much again
Yo,
for tuning in. Have a
Thank you,
beautiful rest of your
Simona.
week.
Yes,
peace.
y'all too.
Thank you,
Peace,
y'all.
peace.
Peace.